Coming up on Global Business, New Zealand Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta is paying a visit to China. We take a look at the trade prospects between the two countries. TikTok CEO has testified before the U.S. Congress as some American lawmakers want to ban the app over security concerns and Chinese influence, which China firmly opposes. And in Washington, celebrations for the National Cherry Blossom Festival are in full swing, attracting tourists from all over the world. Hello and welcome to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Guan Xing in Beijing. And first up on the program, Chinese Premier Li Qiang presided over a State Council executive meeting on Friday in Beijing. The meeting decided on the State Council's division of work for this year. It also looked into preferential policies aimed at improving the country's tax system. Agriculture and rural work plans and reports of progress in poverty alleviation were also reviewed. New Zealand Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta is in Beijing for talks with senior Chinese officials as the two sides eye more cooperation. And CGTN's Dong Xue has the latest.
Despite differences in history, culture, and social systems, China and New Zealand have always respected and trusted each other. So said China's senior diplomat Wang Yi on Friday while hosting the visiting New Zealand Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta. Wang noted that China is always looking to expand its relations with the developed countries. He went on to say that Beijing's efforts to promote its own style of modernization, pursue high-quality development, and expand opening up at a higher level will bring new development opportunities to New Zealand. He also predicted that the upgraded China-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement and the agreement on the comprehensive economic partnership between the two countries will foster new growth, maintain a stable supply chain, as well as a fair and open trade investment environment. This is the first trip to China by a New Zealand government minister in 4 years. Despite the rising geopolitical competition in the Pacific region, Foreign Minister Mahuta said New Zealand's relationship with China is one of the country's most important, complex, and wide-ranging. She also hopes to deepen cooperation, trade, as well as people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. She also looked forward to more high-level bilateral talks and growing relations with China over the next 5 decades. The two sides also exchanged views on cooperation in the South Pacific, the Ukraine crisis, and agreed that China and New Zealand should work together to promote regional peace, stability, and prosperity. New Zealand remains an important participant in China's Belt and Road Initiative, which marks its 10th anniversary this year. Both sides are eyeing for opportunities for more cooperations in the years to come. Dong Xue, CGTN, Beijing.
New Zealand has long been one of China's most active trading partners. It was the first developed country to initiate free trade agreement talks with China nearly 2 decades ago. And here's a recap of how bilateral trade has flourished since then.
希望双方做好协定的落实和执行工作。
Bilateral partnership, helping to deepen economic and people-to-people connections between our two countries, whilst playing a key role in our recovery from the COVID-19.
Earlier, our reporter Wang Tianyu spoke to the chairman of the New Zealand Business Roundtable in China to understand how New Zealand businesses perceive economic ties between the two countries. Take a look.
I'd categorise our economic ties as being really strong and quite diverse. The FTA that you mentioned was one of the really big enablers of that. Our two-way trade before the FTA FTA came into place was just under $9 billion. And if we look to last year, we're now at just over $40 billion. And that's in a range of different segments. So I think we're in a really strong position already, but still lots of opportunities to grow.
In April last year, the upgraded China-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement came into force. What kind of effects have this brought about to the trade between the two countries?
I mean, first, I think it was great to be able to recognize the 50 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries, and the upgrade was, timed around that. What it's done from a practical level, though, is some of the areas where there's still a few trade barriers and still some tariffs in place. That upgrade has removed those, which gives both China and New Zealand some opportunities to do two-way trade between the countries. There's also some more practical things like being able to clear goods in each other's countries a lot easier. And it had some allowances for areas like services that weren't in the previous 2008 FTA. So some really good practical things that enables New Zealand and Chinese businesses to be able to do trade between the two countries.
Foreign Minister Mahuta is the first New Zealand minister to visit China since 2019. What are your expectations for her visit?
Yeah, for me, it was a really important symbolic thing that that the minister came to China, and in many ways, I see it as her leading the way of demonstrating how important people-to-people exchange is. The minister's obviously meeting her counterparts in the Chinese government, but also connecting with many community leaders here and business leaders. And for me, I think in the business world, we need to translate that and follow the minister's lead in people-to-people exchange, because that's really what's going to help strengthen our relationship, whether it's a trade relationship or a government relationship. And the minister also took a lot of time out to really hear what's changed. It was something she was very cognizant of understanding, 3 years is a long time, and what had changed in China. So they were the things that I observed.
You have been working and living in China since 2015. What kind of changes have you noticed in China's economic development?
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed in change is a significant shift into innovation and research and development. And you don't have to go too far than, looking at the Guangdong Bay area and their focus on high tech. And I think that's the thing that's the biggest change, and is going to be one of China's biggest advantages, is their strive for innovation versus simply manufacturing good quality, low cost products, but also now really innovative products. And I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed over the years that I've lived here in China.
And now for more insights on the economic cooperation between China and New Zealand, let's bring in Lin Duo, Research Fellow at the Department for Asia-Pacific Studies at China Institute of International Studies. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lin. So what is the main focus of the New Zealand Foreign Minister's visit to China?
Good evening. Minister Mahuta used 3 words to describe New Zealand-China relationship before she left. She said a New Zealand-China relationship is one of New Zealand's most important, complex, and wide-ranging relationship. And that clearly conveyed 3 messages. The first one is New Zealand attaches great importance to developing good relations with China with strategic autonomy, even though the world, especially Asia-Pacific, is haunted by so-called great power rivalry. And second, bilateral relationship is complex as both countries have shared goals of economic recovery from the pandemic, while they may disagree over certain affairs. And third, cooperation between the two can be wide-ranging, covering fields like trade and investment, green technology, education, tourism, and so on. An important point about this trip is that it's a sign that the Labour government of New Zealand, under the new Prime Minister Chris Hipkins, is carrying on his predecessor's goodwill to maintain good relationship with China, as well as carrying on the consensus reached by Chinese President Xi Jinping and New Zealand's former PM Ardern on the APEC summit last November. And I believe this summit between the 2 foreign ministers will be an opportunity for both sides to deliver on the leaders' important common understandings. And we all know that 2022 marked the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relationship between the 2 countries, and this meeting will enable the relationship to achieve more in the next 50 years.
And let's zoom in on the bilateral economic and trade cooperation between China and New Zealand. What are the key results and implications of this cooperation for both countries?
To have a good understanding of the whole picture of bilateral economic relationship, we need to understand two basic facts. First, New Zealand have been many first ones for China amongst Western developed countries. New Zealand was the first to finish the negotiation process with China in its accession to WTO early this century. New Zealand was the first to fully recognize China's full market economy status, and it also was the first to start the negotiation of free trade agreement with China, which came into effect in 2008 and got updated in 2021. And the second fact is that China is many number ones to New Zealand. China has been New Zealand's top one good trading partner, number one export market, and number one source of imports for, I believe, almost a decade. China exports clothes and electronic products to New Zealand, and its main imports from New Zealand are dairy products, wood products, and meat. And in 2022, bilateral trade in goods amounts to $25 billion US. So now the trading relationship between the two countries have evolved into a multi-sector and multi-level modern time trading relationship.
And what are the prospects for cooperation between China and New Zealand in areas of climate, green, and sustainable development, and how might this cooperation benefit both countries and contribute to global sustainable development?
Speaking of climate change and sustainable development, the two countries have issued China-New Zealand leaders' statement on climate change in 2019, I believe. And both countries have been great contributors to global carbon reduction. And practically speaking, sustainable development has a lot to do with sustainable production in specific sectors. And the strong relationship between the two countries in the food, fiber, and agriculture sectors have had a significant positive impact on both countries. And everyone, including consumers, farmers, and governments, can benefit in an environmentally friendly way from the continued and deepening cooperation in the talked above areas.
Well, thank you very much for sharing with us. That was Lindor, Research Fellow at the Department for Asia Pacific Studies at China Institute of International Studies. And now we're heading for a short break, still to come on the program. TikTok CEO has testified before the U.S. Congress as some American lawmakers want to ban the app over security concerns and Chinese influence, which China firmly opposes.
The global economy as we know it sits at a critical juncture. An uncertain world facing unprecedented challenges. In times like these, solidarity, cooperation, and ensuring development are paramount. For over 2 decades, leaders from across the region and around the world have gathered at the Boao Forum for Asia to discuss the most pressing issues of our time and forge partnerships. Join CGTN as we bring you the latest insights, interviews, and analysis from this year's event. Our special coverage begins on March 27th, only on CGTN.
Welcome back. TikTok CEO Shou Zi Chew has testified before a congressional committee in Washington. The future of the popular app in the U.S. is at risk as some lawmakers seek to ban TikTok over allegations of security concerns and Chinese influence. CGTN's Jim Spellman reports from Capitol Hill.
Testifying before the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, TikTok CEO Shou Zi Chew defended the popular social media app over security concerns, allegations the Chinese government has access to the personal data of U.S. users.
Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action.
The CEO made a series of commitments aimed at easing lawmakers' concerns.
Number one, we will keep safety, particularly for teenagers, as a top priority for us. Number two, we will firewall protected U.S. data from unwanted foreign access. Number three, TikTok will remain a place for free expression and will not be manipulated by any government. And fourth, we will be transparent and we will give access to third-party independent monitors.
Not good enough for some skeptical members of Congress.
TikTok has repeatedly chosen the path for more control, more surveillance, and more manipulation. Your platform should be banned.
The testimony comes as the Biden administration is considering banning TikTok if the privately held Beijing-based parent company ByteDance doesn't sell the U.S. version of the app. TikTok is already in the process of being banned on U.S. government-issued devices. Chu's appearance before the committee is part of an all-out effort to save the app in the U.S. Earlier this week, the CEO released a video recorded in Washington.
Hi, everyone. It's Shou here. I'm the CEO of TikTok.
On where else but TikTok, emphasizing the positive impact the app has had on U.S. businesses.
There are more than 150 million Americans on TikTok. That's almost half of the U.S. coming to TikTok to connect, to create, to share, to learn, or just to have some fun. This includes 5 million businesses that use TikTok to reach their customers, and the majority of these are small and medium businesses.
And TikTok influencers came to Washington to push back against the proposed ban.
I understand that it may have Chinese origins, but this is American people, American employees, American businesses.
While some in Congress are in favor of banning TikTok, an emerging bloc of lawmakers has come out in support of the app.
TikTok as a platform has created a community and a space for free speech.
Critics of the proposed TikTok ban say it's part of a broader effort to suppress Chinese businesses.
Data security should not be used by a certain country to abuse the national security concept and state power to suppress foreign companies. The U.S. has yet to present evidence that TikTok threatens its national security.
Ultimately, despite the national security fears, the sheer extent of TikTok's popularity may make it politically unviable to ban the app in the United States. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
China's foreign ministry has urged the U.S. to stop making it unreasonably difficult for foreign companies. Other than a possible ban, the U.S. is also pushing for TikTok to sell its app, which China's Commerce Ministry has firmly opposed.
China attaches high importance to data privacy and security and protect these based on law. China has never asked, nor would ever ask, any company or individual located in foreign countries to provide data, information, or intelligence in an unlawful way. So far, the U.S. government has not provided any evidence to prove that TikTok poses a threat to U.S. national security. Yet it has repeatedly made presumptions of guilt and unreasonably suppressed related companies. The U.S. side should respect the principles of market economy and fair competition, stop suppressing foreign companies without reason, and provide an open, fair, and non-discriminatory environment for enterprises from all countries to invest and operate in America.
Forcing the sale of TikTok merely on the basis of its investors' nationality, while ignoring the product and its service, will seriously damage the confidence of investors from all over the world, including China, to invest in the United States. If the news is true, China will strongly oppose the move. The potential sale or divestment of TikTok would have an impact on technology exports, which need to go through administrative permission procedures according to Chinese laws and regulations. The Chinese government will make decisions according to the law.
Swiss banking giant UBS has agreed to take over its rival Credit Suisse for $3.2 billion in a government-backed deal. It came after Credit Suisse's shares went into free fall, with the Swiss National Bank having to offer $50 billion in financial support, which could not stabilize the situation. Julia Libova reports from Switzerland.
Switzerland is renowned around the world for its mountains, watches, and private banks. The banking sector is a symbol of national identity. But one financial institution, Credit Suisse, has got into big trouble recently and had to be taken over by another Swiss bank, UBS.
This is a very important announcement for the two banks concerned, of course. but it is also a very important announcement for the stability of the Swiss financial center, for private individuals and companies that need this liquidity and access to the banking system, and of course, for the stability of the international financial center.
The Swiss president said that the collapse of Credit Suisse would lead to incalculable consequences not only for Switzerland but for the international financial system. Founded in 1856, Credit Suisse is among 30 financial institutions known as globally systematically important banks. So a takeover deal worth $3.23 billion was organized over a roller coaster weekend.
This deal should largely be seen as a rescue deal for Credit Suisse and an emergency move by the government authorities. Meanwhile, it also comes with certain benefits for UBS. Subsequent to closing of the merger transaction, UBS will be the surviving entity, and the combination will see creation of a global wealth manager with around $5 trillion in total invested assets.
Some experts are worried about the impact of the deal on the competitive landscape in the banking sector. But the news of the deal have also received an angry reaction from the people in Switzerland who are concerned about job losses and the hit to the national pride it has caused.
This is a pity for us here and for Switzerland.
It was good that they took swift action, but I think the Swiss are wise enough to break it down and manage it.
It seems like a cartel, so there's only one bank, and so everybody is dependent on that bank.
Many people in Switzerland are in shock after its largest bank, UBS, agreed to swallow up the second largest bank, Credit Suisse. But many people are also concerned about a financial monster that could be born. The merger is expected to be completed by the end of 2023, and for now, there are too many questions to be addressed. Julia Lubova, CGTN, Zermatt, Switzerland.
Moving on to some other business headlines from across the world. Economic activity in the Eurozone area gathers pace in March to reach a 10-month high, thanks to consumers who are splashing out on services. Manufacturing output, however, still stagnated for a second consecutive month. Inflation eased but remained high by historical standards. Germany's housing prices fell for the first time in more than a decade, government data showed on Friday. Higher financing costs and continuing high inflation have been cited as causes. China's Xiaomi reported an annual profit of 8.5 billion yuan or $1.2 billion, down more than 60% from the year before. The world's third largest smartphone maker spent 3.1 billion yuan last year on electric vehicles and other new initiatives. The World Bank has, in its Global Economic Prospects report released earlier this year, remarked that GDP growth was slow in all major economies in regions barring China. With China reiterating its commitment to embark on economic growth through high-quality development, openness, and cooperation, can we expect a quicker than expected recovery this year, one that will help the world ward off recession risks? To understand more on these subjects, I spoke to Manuela Ferro, World Bank's Regional Vice President for East Asia and the Pacific, to understand how China can leverage its advantages to foster high-quality development and also sustain global growth.
We pay a lot of attention to the direction of Chinese economic policy. We're also paying a lot of attention to the modernization of the economy, but it's now focusing on high quality growth. China is making a strong recovery, and we really see that in 2023 we could have a recovery with growth hovering around 5%. That is a very robust performance. So the World Bank and China have a very long-standing and strong partnership. China's development experience is some of the best in the world, and many developing countries aspire to learn from what China has achieved in many areas. So we too learn from China's experience. We convey that experience to other developing countries.
And you can see more of that interview on BizTalk this weekend here on CGTN. Celebrations for the National Cherry Blossom Festival are in full swing in Washington, D.C. Tourists from all over the world come to the city to see the beautiful blossoms and capture unforgettable memories. Take a look.
Spring has sprung in Washington, D.C. as residents and tourists from around the world come witness the beautiful cherry blossom trees. The U.S. Capitol is bursting with excitement as the cherry blossom trees come into bloom.
It's just gorgeous, so we had to come down and see it.
Although the peak bloom is still a few days away, visitors are already enjoying the festivities and celebrations. The Tidal Basin is the epicenter of D.C.'s Cherry Blossom Festival, and it's where visitors come to capture the perfect picture or simply bask in the beauty of the surroundings.
The colors are just incredible, vibrant, beautiful. It's very cold today, but it feels summery.
The festival commemorates the gift of 3,000 cherry trees from Mayor Yukio Ozaki of Tokyo to the city of Washington, D.C. in 1912. What started as a small celebration has now turned into a 4-week extravaganza that draws in over 1.5 million visitors from all over the world. The festival features diverse and creative programming that celebrates traditional as well as contemporary arts and culture. The festival is also an opportunity for local businesses to showcase their products and services, from delicious food vendors to talented artists. The festival has something for everyone. One artist in particular took advantage of the festival's popularity to display his art.
This is my first year here. It's been awesome. Really good reactions. People have been very receptive and kind. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been really nice.
As the festivities continue, many people can be seen walking across the tidal basin, capturing unforgettable memories and creating new traditions. The Cherry Blossom Festival is truly a celebration of DC's community and its unique cultural heritage.
And that will do it for this edition of Global Business on CGTN. Thank you for being with us. The Point with Liu Xing is coming up next. Bye for now.